Guys, you work for Irish TV and you're currently embarking on finishing a documentary about Lyme in Ireland. Would you, who wants to take this up? Where did this start? Where did you begin?
I suppose first, when you have a member of your own crew hit down with some mysterious illness, and you look at him and you see, I would have given James, and not to even be
not too long to live.
Yeah, I probably would have given him 2 or 3 weeks by what I saw of him, the deterioration of such a short space of time. And it was very worrying to see what he went through, and being diagnosed shortly afterwards with Lyme disease after going to obviously so many tests, so many GPs and so on and so forth. The usual story, it's the story you hear all the time. And just after Christmas, because I saw what the effects it had on James, he suggested that we do look at making a documentary on Lyme because the awareness wasn't out there. We didn't know about it, I didn't know about it. And just after Christmas, it transpired that my wife had Lyme disease. So that's 2 people, in my very close network. And then we started, finding out a bit more, and then we realised there's so many people we know that have been infected.
Is that just in your area?
Just in our area.
Okay. And do you have a point where people are coming into contact with ticks or with an infection? I mean, had you circled sort of an area that you thought was a high point? Or?
Yeah, certainly. We have a national park we're on, and my property, my home is on the boundary of a national park. There is woodland area, and likewise for James, he's a wildlife cameraman as well, and would have spent a lot of time filming wildlife, and I suppose that's where it starts for you.
Yeah, I was actually bitten around 2009, 2010 in Killarney National Park, and I did actually get the rash because I was bitten. It was here I found the tick, up here on my hair. But yeah, it took a couple of years of going to the GP and saying you're not feeling well, and you're getting a little bit of stiffness. But then I had a good run at it. I'm 62 now, so I had a good run, and I was thinking, well, this is old age anyway. I'm stiffening up anyway. That's why. But fair dues to my GP, he said no, I think there might be something else happening here. So he said, we're going to look at rheumatoid arthritis. So he sent me to a rheumatologist, and that's actually where it started then. And I went through all the tests with that doctor, and he was at a loss as to what was wrong with me. And then it was through some friends and word of mouth, and indeed TikTok Ireland, that I actually went to Armin Labs in Germany and got diagnosed with Lyme disease.
Tell us about how severe your symptoms were, and how, once you had treatment, how quick you felt a result, because you just explained it. If you would share with people.
Yeah, that was amazing. Yeah, in the sense that I was absolutely crippling up. If I did anything, I would have great energy one morning, and then all of a sudden, you just go into really being lethargic, and not being able to communicate with people. And maybe there was cognitive issues as well, but then I would actually, my joints. It would start in my knees and my ankles and my hips and my back and across my shoulders, and I would absolutely be crippled. I'd be walking around with a brush like this, trying to get from one place to the other. And it was amazing, the pain, like your knee. I said there must be something in there, that's causing that pain. It was just unreal. When I went on the medication, after being diagnosed, and my GP was on board with Dr. Armin's findings and everything, within 1 hour I could feel an improvement. I was able to turn my head right and left, which I couldn't do an hour before that, and the following day I started improving, and thankfully I haven't looked back since, in that sense. Now I have to pace myself. I still get a little bit tight, but I'm still able to work away, but certainly a big improvement.
Had you resigned yourself in any way to thinking this was kind of coming toward the end and you weren't going to get better?
Everything had crossed your mind. There were times when you get so low that, and then people didn't understand. People didn't understand. And I used to ask my rheumatologist, is this in my head like? Am I dreaming this half the times, or am I, is that psychiatric? The only thing that he could find in all the tests that he did, that my inflammation levels were high. So he didn't think a psychiatric problem would put up the inflammation level. So that was a help, you know.
And from the point of view of sort of the elation afterwards and the second lease of life, you know, how good is that?
It's good. It's good because I have more energy, and now I can. You wouldn't realize, the best way to describe it is you're like in slow motion. When you are sick, you're in slow motion. You can't seem to multitask, or you can't seem to multi-think. You know, like even if you were driving, you'd be saying to yourself, well, the green light, I can keep going through this, you know. Or if it turned yellow, I better stop here. Yeah, because this is that is red after that. So, you know, everything slows down. Whereas now, you don't think about it, you know, it's normal. And that's something that slips away with people with Lyme. But the problem is they get used to living that way, you know.
I wonder about the impact on your family as well. They must be so thrilled to see you now, or sort of like, you know, having a second chance, if you like.
Absolutely, yeah. My wife Breda is delighted at the progress I've made, you know, compared to what way I was, and certainly, I mean, it gives her. But you know, she's worried, and she's worried about especially younger people. When you see younger people coming down with Lyme disease. And then I've been in Killarney a few times, and I was working on the ticks, looking at them and filming them. And then I see families running around through the grass, and there is no awareness whatsoever. You know, I'm very surprised at the Department of the Environment and National Parks that they haven't made people more aware.
What do you think is the reason for that?
I would say probably a lot of them is tourism.
Okay.
Yeah. They are probably frightened of their lives that in case they damage the tourist trade. But if they don't make people aware, I mean, if you get people from the eastern United States, they're well aware of the Lyme disease problem they have. They would much prefer to be told in a guest house or in a hotel, you know, you're going out, that's great, cover up because we have ticks out there.
You are embarking on your documentary, and you've spoken literally to everybody involved in Lyme disease, in the treatment of Lyme, the diagnosis of Lyme sufferers, etc. What has been your sort of overriding sort of feeling afterwards? I mean, why do you think that we're so poor to diagnose? Why do you think that we're so behind when it comes to testing? Why do you think that, I mean, in my opinion, a lot of Lyme sufferers are pretty much ignored, and this sort of dishing out that it is psychosomatic and all of that. I mean, why do you think that these things are the way they are, and we're not more progressive and catching up with our German neighbours? Why do you think that is?
Since embarking on this documentary, I think it gives you more questions than answers, and we've talked to everybody. We've talked to tick specialists, we've talked to GPs, consultants, infectious disease specialists, we've talked to the laboratories. I mean, we've talked to everybody, and people who are obviously Lyme sufferers, the most important people in all this. I think it's an ignorance, a lack of communication, education, and we're set in our ways. Unless we start to change our way of thinking from the top down, governments, physicians, you know, the medical fraternity, and the awareness from organisations like the HSE putting it out there that this is a problem, and even the national parks admitting that we do have ticks. Millions upon millions of ticks. We have filmed them. Under every leaf that you see in a national park in Ireland, you can find 50 to 100 ticks on one leaf. And it's just an amazing journey for us. I can't wait for people to see the documentary, because if this is one small step in a big wheel that needs to happen, but it is awareness, and like you said, it's so important that we just educate people and be preventative, not worrying about all the cases that we have now on our table that people have been misdiagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, ME, you know, fibromyalgia for my wife, you know, people at 35 with young kids and active lifestyle that are hardworking do not change overnight. It is okay to ask for a second opinion. It's okay to seek other help. Don't, you know, take everyone's face value and say, you know, this is what you have. Ask the right questions and just say, I know myself. And you always know yourself. You are the only person that can, you know, knows what's happening within you. And that's the big problem for Lyme sufferers, I think, that they take everybody's word because they're looking for an answer. But sometimes if you're not getting better, the medication's not working, you probably don't have what you were first told. You know, I think that's in simple terms.
And I think the CDC in the United States, the Central for Disease Control, has a huge emphasis on, you know, making sure that doctors out there are not jumping on the Lyme bandwagon, so to speak. If they were forthcoming with the information and with the awareness campaign, you would see organisations then all over the world, including the HSE here in Ireland, coming out and saying that Lyme disease is a huge problem, and we are in the brink of an epidemic here in Ireland.
I think we're in
You
it.
know.
I think we're in it, to be honest with
Yeah.
you. We're on the brink of the diagnosis, the epidemic of the diagnosis, but we have it, I think. You know, we're in there.
And even for trainee doctors now, and I think this is important, that part of their training now is that they go to infectious disease and they witness that side of where that wasn't before, you know, so GPs that would have studied years ago would not have been prevalent to infectious disease. Now they are, which is important, but like some of the speakers will say today, no studies have been done in Ireland, no studies have been done on the deer population in Ireland. So if you are a trainee doctor, if you're, you know, going through your studies at the moment and you need to study something, certainly look somebody. All it takes is one person to start the ball rolling on this, really. Do a study on the deer population. Look at, you know, what's happening in Ireland right here, right now. Let's not wait any longer.
Do you find that it's ironic that both of you work in the capacity that you do, and not only that, you have a wildlife cameraman, photographer with you, you are in media, your wife gets it. There's an irony to that. It's like, well, no one else will listen, so you have to do it. There is an irony in that, isn't there?
There is, absolutely. You know, the responsibility falls back for awareness of a lot of things, not alone Lyme disease, but you're thinking to yourself, you know, I need to see young families enjoying themselves in the national park, and that's what you want to see them doing. But you know the risks are so high, and what's the future for them if they get bitten? You know, I had a teacher phone me the other day, and she had 14 children in the national park. Now they were between ages 12 to 15, I think, but they all got bitten, including herself, and she's breastfeeding, so she is in a panic at the moment. But thankfully, my GP, which came on board with my problem, he's helping me out down the road.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
But that also that she knew to take it seriously as well, because they all could have gone home and put on Sudocreme and forgotten about it.
Had they would have taken the precautions, had the national parks said, we have,
Yeah.
you know, look out, ticks about.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah. And it's not just, and I suppose we've mentioned national parks several times, like like
Fields.
Anne told us, everywhere. It's
But
prevalent,
yeah.
it's everywhere. Ticks are everywhere. And it's not just deer as well, you know,
Because
there is...
song thrush can drop into your backyard, blue tits, they can have the little ticks on, because the first feed of the little nymph is actually on small birds and small mammals such as rats and mice.
And the most worrying thing for me, James just mentioned that school tour last week. 2 days ago, I got a letter home saying my daughter's class, my 10-year-old daughter's class, was being brought to the national park. We contacted the teacher and the principal involved and said, you know, are they aware? And they said, we've never heard of it. So, I mean, that is just a shocking indictment of what is going on, and it's not their fault. They've done nothing wrong. They are just not being told.
Have you now told them?
Yes.
So they know now, they cannot say that they do not know.
Yes.
That's it.
So they have to take action.
Yeah.
Yes, and they will.
No.
But it's like I said, they just did not know. There is no directive from the Department of Education, you know, the Department of Environment, like Department of Health. I mean, it's government down. Look, they're the lawmakers. They put everything into statute. They control the budgets in the HSE, and so it starts from there and it works its way down. Unfortunately, we're going about it the wrong way.
Yeah.
We're starting with probably a campaign set up by people infected and documentary makers that have been directly affected as well.
And the other thing is then there is, you know, a lot of people don't like using bug spray because it can affect their skin, especially on children and things like that. But there is a spray that you can actually get now. I don't know if it'll be available in Ireland shortly, but I was able to get hold of and it's called Permachan, and you actually treat your clothes. and it lasts for about 40 weeks with even 6 or 8 washes.
So there's
And it'll
also
protect, you know.
citronella oil. Have you had that?
Yes,
as well?
absolutely.
And that's
There's
totally
natural ones. Yeah.
So the one that you're saying that's not natural.
No, no, no. This is a chemical based. But
Okay.
you know, I can't take chances with a crow that's out in
Sure,
that you know we're filming in the wild. I have to protect them. But the other thing is tea tree guile is supposed to be brilliant. You know.
And that's natural.
That's natural. You know, so there's a lot of things out there that you can put on kids that won't damage them. But the most important thing of all is when you take your children out, make sure that watch where they're going, and when you bring them back, check them.
And yourself.
You know, and yourself.